Once upon a time in the bustling city of Evergreen Heights, there lived a man named Elias. He was 42 years old, a father to two energetic sons, Marcus and Theo, and a precious daughter named Sophia. They were the light of his life, the reason he pushed through every hardship. Elias had grown up in a fractured home. His father had abandoned the family when he was just a boy, leaving his mother to scrape by on odd jobs. Now, as an adult, Elias found himself in a similar bind. His wife, Clara, had passed away from a sudden illness 3 years ago, leaving him to raise their children alone. The grief was a constant shadow, but he soldiered on, determined to give his kids a stable life. Elias lived in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of the city, where the walls were thin and the rent was always due. He had no extended family to lean on. His siblings had scattered across the country, pursuing their own dreams, and rarely checked in. Money was tight. Elias had dropped out of high school to help support his mother, so his job options were limited. He worked as a handyman, fixing leaky faucets, painting walls, and repairing broken appliances for whoever would hire him. He didn't have a fancy truck or a business card. He relied on word of mouth and flyers he posted at local coffee shops. Every day, he lugged his toolbox from job to job, often working from dawn until dusk. The children were his everything. Marcus, the eldest at 10, was a budding artist with a sketchbook always in hand. Theo, 8, was the comedian of the family, always cracking jokes to lighten the mood. Sophia, the youngest at 6, had her mother's bright eyes and infectious laugh. Elias would come home exhausted, his hands calloused and his back aching, but the sight of their smiling faces made it all worthwhile. He'd cook simple meals, pasta with tomato sauce, grilled cheese sandwiches, and they'd eat together at the rickety kitchen table, sharing stories from their day. Bedtime was sacred. Elias would read them stories from old library books, tucking them in with kisses and promises of better days. But life had a way of testing Elias's resolve. Bills piled up like autumn leaves: electricity, groceries, school supplies. He skipped meals sometimes to ensure the kids had enough. One sweltering summer afternoon, after a grueling day fixing air conditioners in a swanky office building, Elias picked up the children from the after-school program. The sun beat down mercilessly, turning the asphalt into a shimmering haze. They walked home along the busy streets, the boys chattering about their latest adventures, while Sophia clung to Elias's hand, complaining about the heat. "Dad, can we get ice cream?" Theo asked, his eyes wide with hope. Elias forced a smile. "Not today, buddy. Maybe next week when I get paid." Inside, his heart twisted. He hated saying no. As they crossed a crowded intersection, chaos erupted. A delivery truck, its driver distracted by a phone call, swerved wildly. Elias shoved the children out of the way, just in time, but the vehicle clipped him, sending him sprawling onto the pavement. Pain exploded through his body. A sharp crack in his ribs, a deep gash on his leg. The world spun, horns blared, and screams filled the air. The last thing he saw before blacking out was his children's terrified faces. When Elias awoke, he was in a sterile hospital room, surrounded by beeping monitors and the sharp scent of antiseptic. His body felt like it had been through a war zone. Bandages wrapped around his torso, an IV dripping into his arm. Panic surged through him. "My kids! Where are Marcus, Theo, and Sophia?" A doctor with a clipboard entered, his expression grave. "Mr. Ramirez, you're lucky to be alive. You have multiple fractured ribs, a concussion, and a torn ligament in your knee. You'll need surgery and months of physical therapy. The children are fine, just some scrapes." They're with a social worker in the waiting room. Relief washed over Elias, but it was short-lived. The accident had destroyed his toolbox, his only means of work, scattering tools across the street where they were run over or stolen. Worse, in the confusion, Elias had stumbled into a nearby construction site, accidentally knocking over scaffolding. That damaged a parked luxury car belonging to a prominent businessman. The owner was furious, demanding $15,000 for repairs. Elias had no insurance, no savings, nothing. How would he pay? How would he work with a broken body? Tears streamed down his face as the children rushed in, hugging him gingerly. "Dad, we were so scared," Marcus whispered, his voice trembling. Theo tried to joke. "You look like a mummy, Dad." But his eyes were red from crying. Sophia buried her, face in his shoulder, sobbing quietly. The days in the hospital blurred into a nightmare. Elias lay there, staring at the ceiling, his mind racing with worries. Rent was due in 2 weeks. The kids needed food, clothes, school fees. He couldn't even stand without help. Friends from the neighborhood stopped by with casseroles and well wishes. But it wasn't enough. One nurse, seeing his despair, suggested sharing his story on social media. "People help sometimes," she said kindly. Reluctantly, Elias agreed. A volunteer at the hospital posted about the accident on a community forum, including photos of Elias in his bed and the kids holding handmade "Get Well" cards. The post went viral overnight. Strangers shared it on platforms like Facebook and Twitter, moved by the image of a devoted father fighting for his family. Donations trickled in, a few dollars here, a 10 there. It was humbling, but Elias felt a spark of hope. Then the phone call came. It was late evening, the hospital room, dimly lit. Elias answered weakly. A calm, confident voice spoke. "Mr. Ramirez, I've read about your situation. I believe I can assist." "Who is this?" Elias asked, suspicious. "A friend. You'll meet me soon enough." The line went dead, leaving Elias puzzled. 2 days later, an entourage arrived at the hospital. There were volunteers with baskets of fresh fruit, toys for the kids, and warm blankets. At the center was a woman in her mid-30s, dressed simply but elegantly, with sharp features and a warm smile. She introduced herself as Dr. Lena Vasquez, a successful entrepreneur who had built a tech startup from nothing. "I don't understand," Elias stammered as she sat by his bed. "Why me?" Dr. Vasquez leaned forward. "Because your story reminds me of my own. I lost my parents young and clawed my way up. When I saw your post, I saw a fighter, like me, and those kids. They deserve a chance." Over the next week, miracles unfolded. Dr. Vasquez's foundation covered Elias's medical bills, ensuring he got the best surgery and rehab. She arranged for temporary caregivers to help with the children while he recovered. But she didn't stop there. Recognizing Elias's skills as a handyman, she connected him with mentors who taught him business basics, how to market services, manage finances, even get certified in plumbing and electrical work. As Elias healed, Dr. Vasquez surprised him. Further, one crisp autumn morning, she drove him and the kids to a quiet suburb. There, nestled among maple trees, stood a cozy 3-bedroom house with a fenced yard and a swing set. "This is yours," she said, handing him the keys. "No rent, no mortgage for the first year. Use it as a foundation to rebuild." Elias's knees buckled. He knelt on the grass, tears flowing freely. The children whooped with joy, racing inside to explore. "Is this ours, Dad?" "Really?" Sophia asked, her eyes wide. "Yes, sweetheart, it's real." But Dr. Vasquez had one more gift. During their conversations, Elias had shared his secret dream: to open a small repair shop, a place where he could fix things for the community and teach his sons the trade. "Let's turn that dream into reality," she said. With her guidance, Elias secured a loan through her network, rented a storefront in the city center, and stocked it with tools. He named it Ramirez Repairs. The grand opening was a community event. Neighbors came in droves, drawn by the story of the man who rose from the ashes. Business boomed. Appliance fixes, home renovations, even custom woodworking projects inspired by Marcus's art. Months turned into a year. Elias transformed from a weary handyman into a thriving business owner. The kids flourished. Marcus joined an art club. Theo excelled in school plays, and Sophia learned to ride a bike in their new yard. Elias dated occasionally, but his heart remained with his family. He volunteered at local shelters, paying forward the kindness he'd received. Dr. Vasquez became a mentor and friend, visiting for holidays and offering advice. "You did this, Elias," she'd say. "I just gave you a push." Through it all, Elias learned a profound lesson. In the darkest moments, humanity's light can shine brightest. Strangers become saviors. Hardships forge strength, and hope is the bridge to tomorrow. To anyone reading this, remember, life may knock you down, but with perseverance and a little kindness from the world, you can rise taller than before. Stay resilient, cherish your loved ones, and believe in the power of second chances.